Imagine this. You're lying in bed, half undressed after a night of intimacy with a man you love, when he suddenly turns to you and says, "You've gained weight, and it's making it hard for me to be attracted to you." No concern for your feelings, just a shallow judgment. That gut punch moment shattered my world, but it ignited a fire that led to the most satisfying revenge you'll ever hear. Stick around, because by the end, this cheating coward lost everything. His animals, his grants, his PhD, and even a job interview 20 years later. This is a Reddit revenge story that'll have you cheering for justice. If you've ever been betrayed, undervalued, or made to feel small by someone who was supposed to love you, you know that burning desire for payback. Hit that like button if you're ready for some sweet, earned karma. Subscribe for more epic revenge tales that hit right in the feels. And let's dive into this roller coaster of a story. Trust me, you won't want to miss how it all unfolds. Let me take you back to the 90s, a time when life felt like an endless adventure, full of mixtapes, dial-up internet, and the thrill of young love without the constant ping of cell phones. I was in my early 20s, just wrapping up college, with that electric buzz of independence humming through my veins. The world was my oyster, or so it seemed, as I navigated part-time jobs, late-night study sessions, and the occasional wild party with friends. That's when fate, or what I thought was fate, introduced me to Jake. We met through a web of mutual friends, the kind of casual connection that blossoms into something profound. He was 23, fresh out of undergrad, with this magnetic charm that drew you in like a moth to a flame. Tall, with tousled hair and eyes that sparkled when he talked about his passions, Jake was already set on pursuing a PhD in animal sciences. He had this intellectual edge, always dropping fascinating facts about ecosystems and wildlife that made conversations feel like mini adventures. Our paths crossed at a mutual friends gathering, where laughter filled the air and cheap beer flowed freely. We bonded over shared interests, indie bands, hiking trails, and dreams of escaping our small-town roots. But what sealed it was our parallel life plans. Jake was gearing up to move clear across the United States for grad school, chasing his academic dreams in a bustling university town. Coincidentally, I'd already hatched plans with my closest friends to relocate to a spot just a 90-minute drive from his new home. It was 3,000 miles from where we started, yet we'd end up so close. This has to be destiny. I remember thinking as we stayed up all night talking, our words weaving a tapestry of excitement and possibility. We fell in love hard and fast, the kind of whirlwind romance that makes your heart race and your stomach flip. Jake came from a warm, vibrant family that welcomed me with open arms. He had 2 sisters, vibrant and witty, who shared my love for sarcastic banter and spontaneous road trips. His younger brother was a comic relief, always cracking jokes that had us all in stitches. I clicked with him instantly, becoming part of their inner circle. Family barbecues turned into epic events where stories flowed as freely as the grilled burgers. It felt like I'd found not just a partner, but an entire support system. His siblings treated me like one of their own, sharing secrets and inside jokes that made me feel truly belonged. Since Jake was deep in his studies and I landed a steady job in a nearby city, our routine settled into weekend escapes. I'd pack a bag, hop in my beat-up car, and drive the winding roads to his place, anticipation building with every mile. He rented a cozy, if a bit cluttered, house with 2 roommates, both fellow grad students in his program. They were the studious types, buried in textbooks and lab notes, but friendly enough to make me feel at home. Money was tight for all of us. We were young, scraping by on ramen and dreams. But oh, the fun we had. Our dates were simple yet magical, grabbing greasy tacos from a hole-in-the-wall joint, strolling hand-in-hand under starry skies, or just lounging in his house surrounded by his quirky passion project. You see, Jake's world revolved around animals. As an animal sciences PhD student, he had turned part of the house into a mini zoo, breeding and selling small creatures like reptiles and rodents. The air hummed with the soft rustles of tiny feet, the occasional chirp or squeak breaking the silence. Tanks lined the walls, glowing with heat lamps that cast a warm, amber light over everything. I loved it. The way the animals' eyes gleamed curiously, the earthy scent of bedding and feed mixing with the faint aroma of our takeout dinners. It was normal for him, this hands-on immersion in his field, and I embraced it fully. Weekends became a blend of cuddling on the couch, watching old movies, and helping him tend to his menagerie. I'd feed the little ones, clean enclosures, and listen as he explained breeding patterns with that passionate fire in his voice. Through Jake, I dipped my toes into his academic circle. I met his advisor's wife, Mary, a gracious woman in her mid-50s who worked in university administration. She had this maternal warmth, with silver-streaked hair and a laugh that could light up a room. We'd meet for lunch during my visits. Simple cafes where we'd sip coffee and chat about everything from career advice to life's little ironies. Mary became a confidant, offering wisdom that grounded me amid the chaos of young adulthood. As Jake's teaching assistant, he introduced me to others in the program, professors, fellow TAs, and students. Surprisingly, I formed friendships faster than he did. Maybe it was my easygoing nature, free from the jargon-heavy discussions that sometimes alienated people. I'd host impromptu gatherings, sharing stories that bridged the gap between academia and real life, making everyone feel included. Life felt balanced, exhilarating even, but beneath the surface, subtle tensions simmered. After about 2 years, the first crack appeared on what I thought was a lazy, intimate afternoon. We were in his bed, sheets tangled around us, the afterglow of closeness still lingering in the air. The room was dim, sunlight filtering through half-closed blinds, casting striped shadows on the walls. My body felt relaxed, content, until Jake's voice cut through the peace like a knife. Out of the blue, with no preamble, he said it, "I've been concerned. You've been gaining weight, and it's making it harder for me to be attracted to you." The words hung heavy, sucking the air from the room. My heart stuttered, a cold wave crashing over me. No mention of my health, no empathetic tone, just his blunt, self-centered critique. I felt my cheeks burn, a mix of shock and rising anger churning in my gut. I sat up slowly, the sheet slipping as I gathered my thoughts. My mind raced. How dare he? After everything? Physical sensations overwhelmed me. The prickling heat of embarrassment, the knot tightening in my stomach. But I refused to let it show. Even at 23, I had a backbone forged from past heartaches. "Well," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil, "maybe you should make sure there's better food here than just crackers and cheese when I come up on weekends." I'd gained perhaps 10 pounds since we met, nothing drastic. I still slipped easily into my size 6 to 8 clothes, feeling confident in my skin. This wasn't about me. It was his shallow hang-up. I pressed on, not willing to escalate into a fight. "So what's your solution to this?" He stared blankly, as if he hadn't thought that far. "I guess you should try to lose weight." The audacity fueled my resolve. Inside, thoughts swirled. This is his problem, not mine. Why should I change for his fickle attraction? "Nah," I said calmly. "I'm not going to do that." "So what are you going to do about it?" He shrugged, mumbling about nothing, just wanted to express his feelings. I nodded, dressed methodically, and we went to sleep in tense silence. The next morning I drove home, the highway stretching endlessly before me, my grip tight on the wheel as unshed tears blurred the view. Doubt crept in. Was I not enough? But deep down I knew better. We continued dating. But the seed of mistrust had been planted, watering itself with every unspoken glance. 3 months later, the facade crumbled entirely. The phone rang one evening, Jake's voice on the line heavy with hesitation. "I want to break up," he said, after nearly 3 years of what I thought was solid ground. My world tilted. "Why?" I demanded, pulse thundering in my ears. His reason? "You don't know enough about science." He claimed conversations about his work frustrated him, having to use common names instead of scientific terms, dumbing it down for me. It sounded absurd, like a poorly scripted excuse. Rage bubbled up, hot and unrelenting. "That's bullshit," I snapped. "What's the real reason?" He insisted it was genuine, but I knew better. The betrayal gnawed at me, a deep ache of underestimation and disrespect. A month passed in a haze of anger and confusion. Then he showed up at my door to return some forgotten items. A sweater, a book, relics of our shared life. I confronted him in the living room, my roommate hovering nearby like a sentinel. "Tell me the truth," I pressed, voice trembling with suppressed fury. Finally, he cracked under the pressure. He'd been seeing Meg, one of his undergrad students. She was 19. He was 26. Her teacher. The power dynamic hit me like a slap. Screams erupted from my throat. Raw, primal rage. Get out! My roommate stepped in, threatening to hurl him off our second-floor balcony if he didn't leave. Jake slunk away, tail between his legs, leaving me in a whirlwind of emotions. As the door slammed, the initial fury gave way to stunned laughter, echoing off the walls. It was hysterical, almost manic. The absurdity of it all. I'd met Meg a few times. She was polite, unassuming. At a backyard barbecue once. Smoke from the grill wafting through the air. She'd spilled sauce all over her pants. Jake, ever the gentleman, asked if I could lend her sweats. I couldn't. My size 8 wouldn't fit her size 18. No judgment there. Bodies come in all shapes, and that's beautiful. But the irony? He'd call me fat to manipulate me into breaking up, too cowardly to end it himself. And clearly, his type leaned toward covier women. The weight comments at 1 a.m. post-sex would mean 95 miles from home. Did he expect me to storm out into the night, drive home in tears? The perplexity fueled my laughter, a release valve for the pain. That moment of clarity ignited something fierce. The betrayal wasn't just a cheating. It was a calculated disrespect, the underestimation of my worth. I felt powerless, like a pawn in his game, but that laughter marked the turning point. Justice whispered in my ear, promising payback. Little did Jake know, his arrogance had awakened a storm. The dust from the breakup hadn't settled, but I wasn't one to wallow. Instead, I channeled the hurt into action, my mind buzzing with a mix of grief and growing determination. In the early 2000s, email was king for those delicate conversations you couldn't bear to have over phone. So I fired off messages to Jake's roommates, polite, gracious notes thanking them for their kindness during our time together and informing them of the split. They were always welcoming, sharing meals and laughs in that animal-filled house. To my surprise, both replied swiftly, confessing they knew about Meg all along. They confronted Jake, demanding he come clean or they'd tell me themselves. That's what prompted his lame, "You don't understand science" excuse, a desperate cover for his guilt. One roommate stood out. George, the super nice, super cute guy with a disarming smile and a genuine heart. He offered to help collect a few items I'd left scattered around the house. Books, clothes, mementos tucked in corners. "Come up for the weekend," he suggested, his voice warm over the phone. "We'll go out, hit the bars, drink, and have a blast." All the things Jake was too stingy to waste money on. The idea sparked a flicker of excitement amid the pain. Why not? I deserved to reclaim my joy, to show myself, and maybe Jake. That life went on without him. So I agreed, packing my bag with a mix of nerves and anticipation. Arriving at the house while Jake was out felt like stepping into enemy territory, my heart pounding with adrenaline. George greeted me at the door, his easy grin easing the tension. The familiar sense hit me. Animal feed, faint musk from the enclosures, mixed with the stale air of student living. As I wandered through, gathering my things, my eyes lingered on Jake's setup more critically than before. While I might not have been a PhD student, I'd paid attention during our time together. He had an endangered species in his care, a fragile, unreleasable animal rescue from the wild. Paperwork was required, including a $25 fee for registration, but Jake had balked, ranting about not wanting the government in his business. Arrogant oversight. And there, in a tank right by the window, visible from the street, sat another creature, one outright illegal to possess in the state under almost any circumstances. A plan formed in my mind, sharp and calculated. This could be it, I thought, pulse quickening. Discreetly, I pulled out my camera, film days, remember? And snapped photos, the endangered animal in its enclosure, the breeding conditions that bordered on overcrowding, the illegal tank dweller basking under the light. Each click felt empowering, a step toward reclaiming control. George noticed but said nothing, his knowing nod suggesting he understood the brewing storm. With my evidence secured, we shifted gears to the fun part. That night, George and I ventured into the town, the cool evening air buzzing with possibility. We hit dive bars, the kind with sticky floors and neon signs flickering overhead. Laughter flowed as freely as the drinks. Shots of tequila burning down my throat, chasing away the lingering ache. Music thumped from jukeboxes, bodies swaying on makeshift dance floors. For the first time in weeks, I felt alive, free from Jake's judgmental shadow. We stumbled back to the house around midnight. My short dress rumpled, giggles escaping as George half-carried me for dramatic effect. Jake and Meg were on the couch, TV casting blue hues across their faces, the tension palpable as we entered. We made no effort to be subtle. Crashing into George's room, we amped up the pettiness. Exaggerated moans, loud laughter echoing through the thin walls. George, ever the gentleman, kept things platonic, but he paraded past their door in boxers a few times, adding to the show. It was juvenile, sure, but the satisfaction? Immense. The next morning, I sauntered into the kitchen in my disheveled dress, hair a wild mess, slowly savoring a donut, flaky, sugary goodness crumbling on my lips. George beamed at me, planting a kiss on my head like a proud co-conspirator. Jake's face twisted in disdain. "You don't have to act like a whore in front of me," he snarled, voice laced with jealousy. Meg shifted uncomfortably, eyes downcast, shame coloring her cheeks. "Have fun with my leftovers," I retorted coolly, strutting out with my head high. The door clicked shut behind me, a chapter closing, but not the end. Back home, I developed the photos, the chemical scent of the darkroom mirroring my brewing resolve. Heart steady, I dialed the State Office of Fish and Wildlife. "I'd like to report some illegal animals," I said, voice firm. I detailed the endangered species without paperwork, the potential overcrowding in breeding setups, and the 2 prohibited creatures. They guided me through the anonymous report process, and I mailed the photos, tangible proof of his negligence. But that was just the start. George had hinted at Jake's unpopularity in the program, his entitled attitude rubbing peers the wrong way. The roommates, fed up, planned to submit complaints to the university about the TAs sleeping with a student and showing favoritism. That night out, amid clinking glasses and bar chatter, we spread the word to mutual acquaintances. "Did you hear about Jake cheating with his undergrad?" Whispers turned to buzz in the small program. George and the other roommate ensured every woman in his classes knew, protecting them from his predatory behavior. Complaints piled up, a chorus of discontent. Then I reached out to Mary, Jake's advisor's wife. Over phone, her voice warm yet concerned, I shared the full story, the lame breakup excuse, the admitted affair. I'd saved Jake's emails, where he confessed in writing. Forwarding them felt like launching arrows. Mary's outrage was palpable. "This won't stand," she said, her tone steely. She promised a thorough investigation and called her husband Jake's direct advisor. While I waited on the line, the wheels of justice began turning, slow but inexorable. Weeks later, George's call came, his voice giddy with excitement. "They're here. Fish and wildlife officials are raiding the place." I could picture the scene. Uniformed officers swarming the house, inspecting enclosures under bright flashlights. Meg, alone at first, stammered that all animals belonged to Jake and were legal, unwittingly clearing the roommates. They confiscated the endangered one from the backyard, implying a neighbor's tip-off. Peering through the window, they spotted the illegal tank animal. With George on the lease, he granted entry, leading to a full search. Warrants followed, and they hauled away everything. Breeding stock worth thousands, leaving only harmless guppies in a fish tank. Meg, frantic without cell phones, drove to university to fetch Jake, tires screeching on pavement. Chaos reigned as animals were loaded into vans. Jake returning to a stripped-down home. The satisfaction warmed me like sunlight, his empire crumbling. But I wasn't done. Jake had secured an EPA grant for his research, federal funds fueling his studies. I called the agency. "How do I report a grantee under investigation for harboring endangered animals illegally?" The process was straightforward. Details submitted. Investigation launched. Soon, word came. He lost the grant, forced to repay nearly $30,000 already spent. Federal funding? Barred for life. No jail time. The animals were healthy. But a $15,000 fine stung. His breeding business? Shattered. Thousands in value vanished into safekeeping. The illegal animals found a new home at a nearby nature center, where I'd visit them for years, stroking their enclosures with a secret smile. The university delivered its blow. Scholarship revoked, TA position terminated for the inappropriate relationship. Shockingly, he avoided expulsion, scraping by to a master's degree. His dad footing the bill for one more year. His arrogance shone through. He hadn't even hidden Meg, starting publicly before her class ended. For weeks wait, and he'd be clear by rules. Laughable hubris. In the aftermath, I emailed his sisters, confessing I miss him but felt awkward post-breakup. They revealed Jake's lie. I ended it over distance. I forwarded his emails, admissions of falling for Meg, deriding my academic shortcomings. Bonds with his family strengthened, independent of him. Life propelled me forward. I pursued my own master's, ironically in science communication, bridging experts and lay people, translating jargon into accessible wonders. It happened organically, not spitefully, but the poetry wasn't lost. I traveled globally, speaking at conferences, collaborating with doctors, nurses, pharma giants, museums, governments, and even Hollywood producers. Each project unveiled planetary secrets, from ocean depths to cosmic phenomena, fueling my passion. Meanwhile, Jake and Meg married, had 2 kids. She pivoted to accounting, ditching sciences. He returned to animal breeding. Siblings share occasional updates over lunches or texts, our friendship's enduring. At one sister's co-ed bridal shower, Jake complained loudly about them befriending me over Meg. The sister laughed. I don't make friends with homewreckers. That's how his parents learned the truth. A decade later, shock rippling through the family gathering. As the years rolled on, the sting of betrayal faded into a distant memory, replaced by the rich tapestry of my own successes. But fate has a way of circling back, doesn't it? Fast forward about 20 years, to a crisp autumn day when I found myself standing before a lecture hall at a prestigious university. The room buzzed with energy. 250 undergrad and grad students crammed into seats, notebooks open, eyes eager. I'd been invited as a guest speaker, sharing insights on science communication, drawing from my career demystifying complex topics for everyday audiences. The spotlight felt empowering, a far cry from the young woman once dismissed as not sciencey enough. I delivered the talk with passion, weaving stories of real-world applications, how explaining climate models to policymakers could shift global policies, or simplifying medical breakthroughs for TV scripts to educate millions. Applause thundered as I wrapped up, a wave of validation washing over me. Mingling afterward, students pepper me with questions, their enthusiasm infectious. Then, amid the crowd, a familiar voice pierced the chatter. "Hey, Opie, long time no see." My heart skipped a beat, but I masked the shock, turning with a neutral expression. There stood Jake, older now, lines etched around his eyes, hair thinning, but that same self-assured posture. Instinct kicked in. I played dumb, tilted my head quizzically. "I'm sorry. Help me out. Have we met at another workshop or lecture?" His face contorted in disbelief, ego bruised. "It's me, Jake." I feigned confusion, brows furrowing as if sifting through memories. Finally, I gasped in mock realization. "Oh my goodness, Jake. I guess I block you out." The words hung deliciously, a subtle jab at his irrelevance in my life. He leaned in for a hug, but I sidestepped gracefully, murmuring, "Lovely to see you," before melting back into crowd. Inside, triumph surged, him in the audience, me on stage, roles reversed in the most poetic way. That evening, the department chair and faculty who'd invited me took me to dinner at a cozy Italian restaurant. Candlelight flickered on white tablecloths, the aroma of garlic and fresh pasta filling the air. Conversation flowed, academia's quirks, research trends, until one professor leaned in. "So you know Jake?" I nodded vaguely. "From over 20 years ago." Pressed for details. I kept it light, but they revealed he was interviewing for a teaching position, having observed classes for days. They seemed poised to hire him. I couldn't suppress a scoff, the sound escaping before I could rein it in. All eyes turned to me, curiosity piqued. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm just shocked he's teaching after what happened at his old university." "What happened?" they chorused. Taking a sip of wine, I laid out measuredly the affair with a 19-year-old student while he was 26 and her TA, the law scholarship, the forced pivot to a master's instead of PhD due to funding cuts. Their expressions shifted, exchanged glances speaking volumes, a silent acknowledgement of a red flag. "Wow," one murmured. "We'll have to look into that." The subject changed swiftly, but the seed was planted. Days blurred into routine until my old friend Mary called over the weekend. Retired now, but still connected through her network. Her voice crackled with excitement. A colleague at that university mentioned a background check on Jake. She said they'd pulled his old file. Complaints from roommates and peers about the affair and favoritism. His firing as TA. The demotion to masters. Mary's name appeared, alongside her husband's, as advisor. As a bonus, included his arrest record for the illegal animals. Expunged after fines and reduced charges, courtesy of his dad's lawyer, but preserved in university archives. Standard checks missed it, but this deep dive unearthed the skeletons. "I don't think he's getting that job," Mary concluded, a satisfied lilt in her tone. Hanging up, relief flooded me. Old wounds fully healed, validation complete. Jake's shocked face in the lecture hall, replayed in my mind, now amplified by this final blow. He'd reaped the consequences of his actions, years in the making. The universe, it seems, has a long memory, especially when nudged along the right paths. In that moment, as Mary's words sank in, a profound sense of triumph enveloped me. Jake had built his life on shortcuts and entitlement, but truth has a way of surfacing. His interview crumbling, career stalled once more. It was the ultimate payoff. No lies from me, just directing knowledge to where it belonged. The emotional release was cathartic, relief mingling with quiet joy, a validation that I wasn't the dumb one after all. He'd humiliated me, but now his pride lay in tatters, a fitting end to his saga betrayal. Reflective wrap-up. Sometimes, justice arrives on its own timeline, amplified by those little nudges we give it. Karma isn't always swift, but when it's earned, it's profoundly satisfying. The lesson here? If someone who claims to love you diminishes your worth, be it your body, your mind, or your spirit, that's their flaw, not yours. Check their actions, trust your instincts, and move forward stronger. Revenge doesn't have to be vicious. Often, it's simply ensuring consequences catch up. As I shimmy into my size 10 pants these days, happier than ever, I toast to that truth. Phew, what an epic journey of betrayal turned triumph. Gave you chills, didn't it? If this story fired up your sense of justice, smash that like button hard and drop your thoughts in comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed or pulled off? Have you ever nudged karma in the right direction? Subscribe now for more heart-pounding Reddit revenge stories that keep you hooked. Hit the bell for notifications and share this with a friend who needs a dose of empowerment. Thanks for joining me. Remember, the best payback is living well and letting truth do the rest. Until next time, stay fierce. But wait, let's delve deeper into the emotional layers that made this revenge so intoxicating. Picture the initial betrayal not just as a breakup, but as a profound violation of trust. Jake's words about my weight weren't mere opinions. They were weapons, crafted to erode my self-esteem and push me away without embearing the guilt. The physical sensation of that moment, the chill on my skin, the lump in my throat, lingered long after. Yet, transforming that pain into power, that's where the real intrigue lies. Each step of the revenge was meticulously thought out, not in haste, but with a cool precision that amplified its impact. Consider the roommate's role. George and the other, silent allies in the shadows. Their complaints weren't just paperwork. They were echoes of collective disdain for Jake's arrogance. Spreading the word at bars, whispers turned to roars in the program's tight-knit community, created a ripple effect, isolating him socially. Mary's involvement added institutional weight, her outrage fueling an investigation that stripped away his academic armor. The wildlife raid, a masterstroke of irony. Jake, the self-proclaimed expert, undone by his own hubris in skirting laws. Officials carting away his prize animals. Meg's frantic drive to alert him. Chaos born from his secrets. Losing the EPA grant hit where it hurt. His wallet and future. Repaying $30,000. Fine another $15,000. Financial ruin compounded humiliation. Even the family fallout. Revealed at the bridal shower. Showcased long-term consequences. His sister's loyalty to me over Meg spoke volumes about character. And that lecture hall encounter? The cherry on top. His incredulity at my forgetfulness, a delicious reversal. This story grips because it's relatable. Who hasn't felt undervalued? The emotional arc from pain to empowerment keeps you invested, each twist building tension until the satisfying release. Justice, served cold and calculated, proves that sometimes the best revenge is simply shining a light on the truth. To truly appreciate the depth of this revenge, let's expand on the psychological undercurrents that drove every action. Betrayal cuts deep, doesn't it? It's not just the act, but the web of lies and manipulation that leaves scars. Jake's attempt to gaslight me about my weight was a classic tactic, projecting his infidelity onto my supposed flaws. That late-night confession, post-intimacy, was designed to provoke a reaction, perhaps hoping I'd flee in humiliation. But underestimating my resilience was his fatal error. The internal dialogue in those moments, why me? Am I really not enough? Evolved into he doesn't deserve my tears. He deserves consequences. The pettiness with George served as an appetizer, a cathartic release. Stumbling and drunk, the exaggerated sounds from his room. It was theater, pure and simple, aimed at Jake's ego. Seeing his jealousy flare the next morning, donuts in hand, was a small victory, but the real feast came later. Reporting to fish and wildlife wasn't spite. It was accountability. Those photos, developed with trembling hands, represented empowerment, turning observation into action. The program's backlash highlighted social justice. Women warned, complaints filed, Jake's reputation tarnished. Mary's call to her husband escalated it to official scrutiny, a chain reaction of ethics enforcement. The raid's vivid chaos. Officers in uniforms, animals created amid Jake's protests, painted a scene of downfall. Meg's unwitting testimony sealed his isolation. Roommates cleared while he bore the brunt. Financial hits amplified the sting. Grant revoked, fines levied, breeding empire dismantled. Visiting those rehomed animals years later? A ritual of triumph. Their contented lives a contrast to his losses. University's leniency in not expelling him only prolonged his delusion, but the master's downgrade marked permanent defeat. Family revelations added personal layers. Emails exposing his lies shifted dynamics, my bonds with siblings enduring while it's fractured. The bridal shower confrontation. Sister's sharp retort amid gifts and laughter exposed his deceit to parents, a decade-old bomb detonating. The 20-year reunion? Masterful serendipity. Feigning forgetfulness stripped his significance. My success spotlighting his mediocrity. Faculty's dinner probe allowed truth's emergence. Background check unearthing buried sins. Mary's update confirmed it. Job denied. Past haunting present. This narrative enthralls through its multi-layered justice. Personal, professional, societal. Emotional investment peaks in the payoff, where validation erases old doubts. It's a testament to resilience, proving that from ashes of disrespect, one can rise phoenix-like. Now, imagine the sensory details amplifying every scene. The 90s vibe. Cassette tapes whirring in my car during drives. The crunch of gravel under tires arriving at Jake's. Animal House aromas. Hay water bowls. Faint ammonia, mingling with our taco date's spicy scents. Bed sheets soft cotton against skin during that fateful talk. Tension thickening the air like humidity before a storm. Breakup call. Phone cord twisting in my fingers. Voice echoing hollowly. Confrontation. Roommate's protective stance. Jake's footsteps retreating downstairs. Email confessions. Keyboard clacks in quiet nights. Satisfaction in hitting send. Bar night with George. Bass thumping in chest. Liquor warming veins. Laughter cutting through smoke. Morning donuts. Sweet glaze sticking to lips. Jake's glare burning like acid. Raid imagery. Sirens faintly. Crates clattering. Jake's face paling. Grant loss. Imagine paperwork stacks. checks written with gritted teeth. Lecture hall. Microphone echo. Students rustling papers. Jake's voice slicing through. Dinner. Wine glasses clinking. Pasta twirling on forks. Shocked silences. These details immerse you, making the story pulse with life. The arc. Injustice to resolve. Hooks universally, tapping into cravings for fairness. Diving even further, the moral justification elevates this tale from petty vendetta to earned reckoning. Jake's actions weren't mere mistakes. They were abuses of power. Cheating with a student, exploiting his position, manipulating me emotionally. Revenge felt fair because it mirrored his wrongs, exposing secrets he hid, just as he concealed Meg. No fabrications, only truths directed aptly. This taps into our innate sense of equity, making the payoff deeply satisfying. Antagonist development. Jake as the arrogant academic, blind to his flaws. His cowardice in breakup attempts, entitlement and rule-breaking, hypocrisy and body-shaming. Infuriating traits that make his downfall cheer-worthy. Vividly. Picture his smug grins during TA duties, dismissive waves of concerns. The way he paraded Meg post-breakup without shame. Protagonist's journey. From vulnerable lover to empowered avenger. Internal monologues reveal fears turn determination. I won't be diminished evolving to island sure he faces reality. Sensory show don't tell. Heart racing during reports. Triumphant warmth at updates. Pacing builds intrigue. Tension escalates with each revelation. Short sentences for raid's chaos. Descriptive passages for emotional depths. Ultimately, this expanded narrative, woven with psychology, details, and justice, keeps you riveted, proving revenge stories resonate when rooted in reliability and righteousness.